This morning, Ches. Welcome back to the show, mate. Crazy news yesterday coming out. Some people shocked, some people not. What's your sort of reaction to it sort of 12 to 24 hours later?
No, like I said in the group chat, Terry, I'm not upset at all. Like we said on the top 6 show, everyone goes stream if I've seen it already. Big up, Terry. I said this, you asked me the question, and I was indifferent. I remember telling you the word indifferent, which means if he was to stay, I wouldn't throw my toys at the pram. If he was to go, I'm not going to celebrate. What I'm not going to do is be revisionist and forget why the board have got rid of him. And the reason why they got rid of him, Terry, isn't just because of one thing. There's many reasons. Obviously, the PR comes out about the structure and he wanted to have a bit more say in certain things. But I just read just now, Terry, that he wasn't annoyed about who was to go and come because he understands this is Chelsea Football Club and you're the coach. He just wanted more say in general. And they just want a head coach. That's all they want. And if he's not that guy, then cool. So let's just talk about his season last season to see whether it was fair or not. So, got to a final, fluffed it. £1 billion Potter jobs. Everyone's laughing at us. You should have won the final. We didn't win that. The City final, fair enough. Again, kind of poor. The reason why I want him out is because Terrace, if Ten Hag next season has injuries, and then you come 4th or 5th, let's say you come 7th again, right, or 8th, are you going to have injuries as an excuse? You're not. The reason why is because the system's in place, and when that system's in place, it can allow players who may not be the greatest players to be in that system and perform well. So if we consider the injuries, if we consider the finals, if we consider the fact we've conceded the most goals in the Premier League era, if we consider the fact that we were mid-table for half the season, those are the reason why he's gone. It's not just because of the structure of the board. Because, for example, if we had won the Carabao Cup even, come 5th, and we only conceded nowhere near as much goals, we had more possession in games, he would still be here. It's not just because of one thing, and they've just gone, which I rate them for. We need to make top 4 next season. We need the money. We need to progress this team. We've spent this much money. We do expect certain standards. Do we stick with him or not? And business, because Chelsea comes a business as well as a football club, is about being risk-seeking. Because like with your business, Terry, at one point, you had to take a risk and you had to make changes. Because we use the example of KJ employees and stuff. You had to go full-time. You had to risk certain things, more time, into what you believe to be a big, successful business business, which has come out to be. But at some point, you had to make that decision. So I agree with you. There's been a lot of changes on the way. So Potter was the wrong choice. Poch wasn't the wrong choice because, Terry, he was only offered 2 years. So they were never looking at him as a long-term manager, which is true. So he's done his job. But they sat there with themselves, looked at the data, looked at what he was asking for, and said, you know what, on the balance of things, you're probably not what we're looking for. We want a young up-and-coming manager, which we need to see come in. If it works out to be a Xabi Alonso or not, that's a different debate. But that's what we're looking for. We don't want a guy we've seen his ceiling, we've seen him at big clubs. He hasn't really got, the highest expectations we want from him. So as a result, business-wise and footballing-wise, he probably hasn't just done enough. It's probably just been, he's probably just fallen short just by maybe even the cup final. Even if he'd won the Carabao Cup final, I think he'd still be here. But I think all these facets mean that on the balance of probability, you probably just didn't deserve to stay. And you know why this is true? Because before he got sacked, everyone was 50-50. No one was saying keep him. No one was saying get rid of him. Everyone was in the middle. I was like, he's done well the last 6 games, but he was mid-table. So it depends which way you want to look at it. And I'm a guy, and I look at things as facts, not feelings-based. And if I'm the owner of Chelsea, and we've made mistakes in the past by being stubborn, them doing this shows they're taking accountability. And it's different to the Potter one, because the Potter one was how can I explain it? That was them sort of like, the Tuchel model didn't work where we get current players. Oh, fuck, we need to change up. Potter's looking good. Let's get young players. It's going to work. That's naive. Whereas this time, they've gone, we're going to stick to this structure of young team. You want a young manager. We're going to stick with that. And Poch, unfortunately, you haven't done enough to stay in your job. So we're going to get a young manager in with these young players, and we're going to stick by that. So you're going to ask me a question in a minute, maybe going, do you trust him to get the right manager? What happens if it's not the right one? Then you'll see me move like CB. Where it's like, this is your last chance, basically, to get it right.
Yeah, I'm about to say. So is that it for you? I mean, because as you say, I mean, look, I understand what you're saying about the data. I mean, what I read about the data is they showed him data like Chelsea have missed too many big chances. That's one of the areas I'd actually say isn't on Poch. That's where it becomes a little bit like Chelsea fans don't bury your head in the sand. If they're blaming Poch for players missing big chances, well, they're not Poch's players. They're the ones that they signed that are not good enough to convert the chances. So I think some of that is a little bit of BS, not from you, but from the reports from Chelsea. I think Chelsea have said a lot of it's based on data, and I'm sure some of it is based on the performances and the results of the team. I understand that. For me, though, aside from Poch, it's the chopping and changing between experienced manager, young manager, experienced manager. Now they're going back to a young, up-and-coming manager again. And you're right. You could bring in McKenna, and McKenna does an Alonso, and in 2 years, you're one of the best teams in Europe. That is plausible. Equally, you could be 6 months in, it's not working, you sack him and then go for an experienced manager again, and you're not really moving the project forward, which you've just said, if that happens, then you'll be on your own.
That happens.
And I understand,
you see me come here and I'll be like, the last 4 years, that's a big sample size, right? 4 years or 3.5 years, we've seen them go from this to that, to this to that. They're clueless. But from the end of the last season, where we flopped with Aubameyangs and Sterlings and Koulibalys, I saw actual clear change. The players have got in are very technical. A lot of players who've got in, people don't rate, partly because of the system, but partly because I haven't seen enough of them. But there are a lot of good players in there, a lot of good talent with each position. So if they're going for the model where I've heard them say they want 3 players that can potentially play in a position. So if one player gets injured, sort of like an American style of thing, which is fine, then cool. Because as far as I'm concerned, Man City have players who are versatile. There's depth in their team. And it's not depth where there's numbers, it's depth in the kind of quality, and each player can play different positions. If they're looking for something like that, nothing wrong with that. And on the manager market, because obviously the big debate is, Terry, it's the next manager.
By the way, I'm not saying shush to you, I'm saying shush to my son. That just
no, you're fine.
Just so you know, just so you know.
Yeah, I thought it was come. What's it called? The issue is people have, Terry, is that people are looking at the next manager. So if we were linked with Flick and stuff, you wouldn't hear any outrage. Like, oh yeah, Poch isn't that good. Flick has got a good record.
Yeah, question for you on that, Ches. I mean, the experienced managers have sort of been ruled out by both them and the club. They've sort of briefed the media and said, not looking at them, Flick included. I know there's a lot of talk of De Zerbi, but same for Man United. So this isn't me projecting on Chelsea. I look at, he wants a lot of control over transfers, and Man United and Chelsea are not giving him that. So as it stands right now, I feel like Man United and Chelsea fans, and I put myself in this category, should forget about De Zerbi, because it doesn't appear that our clubs are a match for him right now. But the managers you are sort of linked to, the Stuttgart manager has distanced himself from the job. You've got McKenna, there's Thomas Frank, there's Mikel, I think is how you pronounce it, at Girona. Out of the managers that you are credibly linked to at the moment, which of them would you take? I know you said last night in the group chat you want to do some research, but waking up on it this morning, which one gets you the most excited?
Boy, I look at the list right now. So you've got McKenna, Enzo from Leicester, Thomas Frank from Brentford, and Sebastian Hoynen from Stuttgart. Boy, the Stuttgart one's most difficult because he's in the Champions League next season. They came second in the league. So, and they've got a lot of players in there like Guirassy, who've done quite well this season. Enzo doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. Thomas Frank, I don't know his ceiling because he hasn't actually. He's achieved good for Brentford, but we haven't actually seen him be exceptional. With De Zerbi, he's gone far and beyond what we expected because he came sixth in the Europa League. He actually got out the group stage. That's actually quite exceptional, right? And then McKenna has also been exceptional because he's promoted a team from League One to Championship, Premier League. I think he's only one of 4 managers to do it, one of 5 managers to ever do it. So that's quite exceptional trait. So I'd probably go with one of them two, really. McKenna or what's it called? De Zerbi, probably my two. I haven't seen McKenna's football as much, but from what I'm hearing from people, he does strike me as a kind of character who's not really fearful. He holds high expectations for himself because you don't get promoted twice, Terry, and not have high expectations for yourself. You don't get promoted twice, season back to back, and not have high standards and a good work rate and a good ethic. But at the end of the day, Terry, I'm going to say it again. I said it in top 6 yesterday. I trust who they bring in. I have to. And in hindsight, Terry, Poch wasn't the worst choice. He's done. People acting like he's done something terrible. He's done what he needed to do, which was sustain the team. Whether it took 6 games or 10 games, he's got the team at a certain level, which is top 6. He's got us in the Europa League.
So you think Poch worked? Poch has been a success.
He's done his job there, 100%. If he was here for one more year and got us 4th and a Europa League semi-final, people still wouldn't have gone because they'd be disappointed with no trophies. But he would have done his job. He's done the first step. People are arguing whether he should be here for 2 seasons or not. But he was going to go off 2 seasons anyway. So I'm trying to say, if this happened in January, I'll be extremely concerned because yes, you've been poor half the season, which I've agreed with, but I've got to give him a chance to turn it around at least. He has done that. So we've given him a chance to turn it around. It's unfortunate for him, it just wasn't good enough. Chelsea Football Club, which is fair enough, because it's like Man United Football Club. In your worst season, you still win trophies, you see. So even if you're having bad seasons, you can still come away with a trophy, which is the ultimate barometer for success. So my thing is like, I trust him to kind of bring the right guy in. That's what it is. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but at the end of the day, what can I do? Just like you said, Terry, your club, you're not going to have a pitchfork out for Poch because if your club backs him, they believe he's the right guy, then cool. And they haven't shown you otherwise to not trust him. My club's only shown me that they want to improve by getting rid of Poch. Keeping Poch would be probably the easier choice. Don't go risk-seeking. Keep the guy in. He's helped us the last 10 games. He's improved the last 10 games. Let's keep him in. Let's give him another chance. But at the end of the day, Terry, they said to him last season, he needs to get top 4. And he probably needs to win a trophy. He's failed in those objectives. He also wants to have more say in terms of the structure, which I don't. The football's kind of poor. Terry, you've watched all of our games this season. We would agree. It's not been great.
No, well, that's also why I'm shocked that you're saying that he did a good job because
I mean, good job in terms of like, if you would have told me last year from where he was, you would get top 6, 5 points away from 4th. You would have players excelling that Cole Palmer.
I think what it proves to me is when rivals said, yes, you've come 6th, but a lot of that is due to Man United and a few teams above you kind of semi-collapsing towards the end. That has to hold some truth now because if you got 6th purely on merit, then you could argue he's had a good season. But Man United probably dropped 10 to 12 points in the last 2 months of the season from very winnable positions. One of them was actually against you where the second half we were better. If Man United hadn't have messed up, your finish wouldn't have been as good. And that doesn't mean you didn't deserve it. But I think if Poch did a good job and genuinely sustained you and got you into that position on pure merit where you were exponentially better than the other teams below you, maybe he stays. So I think there's a combination of the two things in there. But Cheers, listen, really, really interesting perspective that you've got. Thanks for coming on, mate, and having your say. I appreciate it, brother.